So there's like so many makeup sponges out there in the market, ranging from like $30 to like $1. And in this video, I'll be actually sharing with you which sponge do I prefer and why do I prefer that. So out of all of the makeup sponges that you can find in Singapore, I have chosen 5 makeup sponges that we are going to review and compare with. So the first one is none other than the Beauty Blender. We all know how good and expensive this is. Followed by the Real Technique sponge, and a lot of people say that the Real Technique sponge is a dupe of the Beauty Blender, so we're going to try this out as well. Followed by the Sephora sponge, and then the Iuiga sponge, and not forgetting the cheapest Ezbuy Taobao sponge. So the first sponge that we're going to use is the all-famous Beauty Blender, and we have all heard of this Beauty Blender. We all know that it is so good and so expensive. So we are going to start off with this Beauty Blender first, so that we will have like a benchmark on what is a good sponge. So hopefully we can find another sponge that is on par or even better than a Beauty Blender that wouldn't burn a hole in our pockets. So I have no foundation on my face right now. I just have my toner, my moisturizer, and I also prime it with the Tatcha primer. I'll be consistent in prepping my skin with all of this before using all of the beauty sponges. Okay, so I'm also going to use this Makeup Forever foundation for all of the sponges. I'm done with my foundation, and this is what is left after 2 pumps of my Makeup Forever foundation. In terms of absorbing products, I feel that they actually absorb quite a fair bit. As you can tell, there isn't really any like patches of foundation on my Beauty Blender. And this means that the products are actually on your skin and on your face and not really absorbed into the sponge. So of course, we all love the finish of the Beauty Blender. They are known for their airbrush finish. And honestly, I feel that my skin looks flawless. There isn't any strokes or any patches of foundation on it. No doubt, this $32 beauty sponge does the work. In terms of durability, I honestly feel that it could be better. For $32 beauty sponge, there's this like mark over here. And I just use this like barely 5. Okay lah, give it 10 times lah. Confirm use it less than 10 times for this exact sponge. And it is already in such a state. So let's see which of the other beauty sponges can actually achieve such flawless airbrush finish and is also as soft as the Beauty Blender but has better durability than this. I've already removed all the foundation and prepped my skin again. So we are ready to move on to the second sponge, and the next beauty sponge that we're going to try out is the Sephora brand beauty sponge, and you can get this for $15 at Sephora, of course. Same thing, 1 pump of my Makeup Forever foundation, and let's go on. It is quite hard. It is not as soft and bouncy as the Beauty Blender, and I need to use like extra force to really blend all of the foundation into my skin. First thing first, I feel that the shape is quite redundant. Like this area here is of no use. I just need like this pointy end to reach like my eyes and my nose, and this is useless. In terms of the finish, I feel that there is a slight difference. Like I feel that this is slightly cakier. I don't know whether you can tell it on camera. From what I can see in my mirror, it feels like there is foundation on my skin compared to using the Beauty Blender, in which it gives a very soft finish. And on top of that, I actually almost finished using my 2 pumps of foundation. Means it actually absorbed quite a lot of products. So you can see like this area, it means like the sponge is absorbing like a lot of your foundation rather than it going onto your face. In terms of durability, I think that it's neutral. Okay, so let's move on to the Real Technique sponge. And this Real Technique sponge has always been a dupe of the Beauty Blender. There's a lot of videos online saying that this is actually on par with the Beauty Blender, but it's so much cheaper. This is only like $16 from Watsons or Guardian. So I also realized that the Real Technique sponge is so much softer than a lot of other sponges. And I kind of like prefer softer sponges because it just feels nicer on the skin. And it also feels like it can blend well into my skin. Okay, so I'm done with this Real Technique sponge application. Honestly, I feel that the finish is pretty good. Let's zoom in a little to see the airbrush finish of it. It is close to flawless. I think that you can't see any streak or any unblended portion of foundation, but I would still choose the Beauty Blender over this Real Technique sponge because I already finished like 2 pumps of foundation, and I feel that I still can pile on more foundation like over my eyes to cover my circles and even like on my blemishes. So it actually absorbed like a lot of product. Can you see like the whole foundation over here? And in terms of its durability, I feel that it is similar or even worse than the Beauty Blender. Okay, so now for the next sponge. We all love the cheap stuff and we love getting things from Taobao and Ezbuy or Shopee and whatnot. So I actually bought like a pack of 5 beauty sponge from Ezbuy. I will put down the link below. This is only 5 for $4.80. So okay, it's like 5 for $5 and one of these sponge is just like $1. How freaking cheap is that? So they actually come in a lot of different shape and sizes. For me, it doesn't really make a difference. In terms of the softness of the sponge, I think that it is definitely harder than the Beauty Blender, and it feels like it doesn't really blend into the skin as well as the Beauty Blender, somewhat like the Sephora sponge. Okay, I'm done like blending my face and I'm quite surprised that it has so much product left. Like, this is my second pump of my Makeup Forever and I realized that this cheap Taobao sponge doesn't absorb as much product as I thought that it would. Okay, let's see like its flawlessness. Okay, so like the airbrush finish of this is actually not that bad. I can't find a problem with it. I think that it is not as flawless compared to the Beauty Blender, of course. It doesn't really absorb and sink into the skin as well as the Beauty Blender for sure. Like, it feels like there's a layer of foundation on your face. I think that this fares even better than the Sephora sponge. I don't have a problem with this leh. In terms of durability, it doesn't really last that long. Like, this is what happened to one of my sponge. But for the price range, I feel that it's fine because you can just throw it away and just use a new one. It's just $1 for one sponge. The only thing that I don't like about this is that it's slightly hard, so it doesn't really reach into like your pores and it doesn't really reach into like the harder to get areas as well as like the Beauty Blender or a softer sponge. Yay! So we are down to our last sponge for the review and I actually choose the Iuiga. I don't know whether is it how you pronounce it, but yeah, I choose the Iuiga Beauty Sponge. And I love Iuiga because like most of their things are so cheap and their designs are really good and the quality is not bad as well. So I actually got this for 2 of these sponges for $6.90, so one of it's around like $3.45. And I actually have very high hopes for these beauty sponges because their makeup brushes, it's really good and cheap. So same thing, I'm going to squeeze like 1 pump of my Makeup Forever foundation. Oh my god, this is officially my most expensive video because I have wasted so many pumps of foundation and moisturizer and my expensive primer just for this video. Oh my god. So in terms of like its consistency, I feel that it is closest to the Beauty Blender. Like, it is as soft as the Beauty Blender. Okay, so I'm done blending my face with the Iuiga sponge, and in terms of the flawlessness, I do not have any issues with it. I do not think that it's cakey. I think that it's almost on par or similar to the Beauty Blender. And in terms of the foundation usage, I think that it fares quite well, even better than the Beauty Blender. It doesn't absorb that much. There's more products left compared to the Beauty Blender. So anyway, let me go and put on the rest of my makeup so that I can come back and let you know the conclusion of these 5 beauty sponges and which do I think that fares the best. I am back, and for the review and final conclusion of these 5 different sponges, I've created a table for you all. Okay, so I'm a Virgo and I always feel that we all need to be organized, and this is a table that I've created for you all. And honestly, I feel that in terms of quality and the finish, the Beauty Blender sponge definitely still wins hands down. The finish of it is definitely more flawless than the other sponges, but I feel that the Real Technique sponge and the Iuiga sponge comes in very closely right after the Beauty Blender. For the price range for these two sponges, it definitely beat the Beauty Blender hands down. I think that all of them fares well in terms of it functioning as a beauty sponge. Like, if you go out on the street, right, nobody will be like, you're not using Beauty Blender. All of these sponges works well, it's just which would you rather spend your money on or prefer. So when it comes down to which sponge would I buy, I would actually choose the Iuiga sponge out of all of these 5 sponges. Probably because of its price point, it is only like $3.45 for one of these sponge. And it doesn't absorb that much product compared to the Real Technique sponge. And I like how it applies and it feels on my skin. And in terms of the Beauty Blender sponge, I will still feel that it is still the best makeup sponge that you can find out there in the market, because the finish of this and the feel of it is really different compared to the rest of the sponges. So I hope that the review and the video that I've just done for you guys will come in handy and useful if you're going to get a beauty sponge for yourself. Don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in watching more beauty related videos. And follow me on my Instagram because that's where I post most of my updates. And of course, if you have any more good makeup sponge that you like me to know, do comment and let me know what is your favorite makeup sponge. And I guess till the next video,